Hey, legends, welcome back to the Mason Cox Show. There are some big stories out of this week. We've got Collingwood got the W over St Kilda, just barely. Some other news headlines from AFL.com. Lloyd denied by loose flap. Yes, that is quoted from AFL.com. We've got Hinkley has done some heroics to save GWS at the very end. And we also have Jason Horton-Francis being backed up by his coach. We love that. But there's a lot in this episode, so sit in, settle down, and let's get into it. Okay, let's get into it. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. But without further ado, Braden Cox, welcome.
Oh, my goodness. Woo. We just watched the Pies game, and my heart is still going a million miles an hour. How are you doing?
I'm feeling good. We got the win in the end. But, yes, it was a little bit more stressful than I probably wanted it to be. But, as I say, a W is a W. So we beat St Kilda. There's no more unbeaten teams in the AFL at the moment. We're all on an even streak now. So, who knows who's going to make the top 8 now?
It reminded me of when Brock Lesnar beat The Undertaker to break his streak at WrestleMania. It's right up there with that.
Iconic moment.
But let's jump into the clanger of the week. And it's one of the great robberies in sport. When you see a defender come on down from defense and he launches into a kick from 50 and it's going to sail through and his team's up and about. But Lloyd has been denied by a loose flap. Did you see this?
Yes, we must go into detail. The loose flap was the flap from the goalpost, the padding. So that was hanging out. Someone didn't properly, put it onto the post, and the ball, as it was sailing through, touches the flap, which is considered part of the post, which means it's touched the post, quote unquote. Therefore, it's a point, not a goal. So Sydney, 2 weeks in a row, have been screwed over by a shot from almost 50. The first one, they thought they had it. No, sirree. Aaliyah on the goal line. Take that shit back. Second time, loose flap comes in, says, I'll slap that through.
You got to be doing a flap check before you start, don't you?
Well, the worst was the fact that they taped it up after, too.
Yeah.
They realized it was an issue after the situation had happened. They go, oh, yeah, that's a problem. Let's sort it out now.
Too little, too late for Jakey Lloyd. But denied a goal.
A backman goal, too.
Luckily, it didn't really, determine the winner or the result. But, loose flap, it'll get the best of us.
Can cause some problems in the AFL. But we'll go into a more general subject. Now, gather round. Obviously, gather around the big situation, the big event of the weekend. Everyone's in Adelaide and South Australia and up at Mount Barker, I think it was called, some mount up north. Yeah, Mount Barker in Adelaide Hills. They built a little ground out there to do some damage there. But it's been announced 3 more years of gather around in Adelaide. The AFL saw some cha-ching, and goes, yes, we will lock in 3 more years. And it was quite a success. I think they said they sold out every single game. Some of the visuals didn't look very sold out to me, but we move on. And it was a big success for the AFL. Lots of people showed up. Lots of people drove in town from the country, drove interstate and everything else. And it's a credit to the AFL. It's one of those very few ideas the AFL has done that I agree with, and it went well.
If you look up the Mount Barker Oval, it's on Google Maps. It's still just a paddock out in the middle of nowhere. So they turned it around pretty quick, and that's impressive. But they've got a piece of tech down there.
Oh.
It's a bit of CIA, a bit of, this is...
What is this?
It's they put it on the fence, and it emits a frequency that scares away all the ducks.
The duck frequency.
So there's no ducking down at Mount Barker Oval.
Jeez, no high free kicks down there.
No, you won't get away with it down there. They got a duck emitting frequency machine wave thing.
How the hell haven't they got that at the MCG for all the birds that come onto there? All the seagulls.
Well, there's no ducks on the MCG, is there?
Seagulls. Surely there's the same frequency for birds.
It's a duck frequency. Do you not know anything about bird frequencies?
Oh, the science behind it baffles me. Anyway, I want to say this last thing about this gather round. It's super success, everything else. And it's one of the coolest things, I think, in AFL. One of the visuals that I absolutely love is the actual footballs. They had a special football for gather round, special kind of cartoon stuff written on everything else. It's only specific for that round. And there's only one thing that trumps that, and that's the Indigenous round ball. And that thing is phenomenal. Last year's was crazy good. really cool. Like, I want to get my hands on one at some point. I think I have to maybe be best on ground in the team, I think, to be able to get one of those footies. And what was it last year? I was second in line, and Nathan Murphy clipped me, I want to say. I was fuming because I wanted that football.
They do some cool stuff. The AFL's really good at, just the little extras that give it a nice touch. A lot better than how the NRL's going. Now, I don't know if you've seen any of this stuff, but heading into their Anzac clash, they've been selling some jumpers, the Anzac Day jumpers. You've worn a few of those over your time. Well, they've been busted, a couple of clubs in the NRL, taking stock images of American soldiers off Getty Images and like photo websites and turning them around and like just pretending they're Anzacs and chucking them on the jumper. Now that's, I don't know. One, it's dumb. Two, it's disrespectful.
I think it's like an iconic visual of like the Anzac hat. Like that's one thing I look at whenever I see like an outline or silhouette. And I'm like, that's Anzac for sure because it's got the hat. We're like, Americans have the helmet. Which one's more useful? I think probably the helmet, don't get me wrong, but it is the iconic visual of Anzac soldiers whenever you see like that hat on top of their head.
It was the dumbest. I don't know how it came about, but like this image of American soldier, he's got like his like assault rifle and he's like
definitely not Australian.
Walking away from like a chopper in the background and like it's just so weird, but can't win them all.
Yeah. All right, we'll get into this week's games. Now, great start in Adelaide. We had the Adelaide Crows in their new jumper versus Carlton. Now,
Carlton in the white strip, which they don't wear very often, but it looks slick. I like that.
Slick. It wasn't helping them on the day because they got spanked. And I mean that in the nicest way. It was Adelaide came out thunderous. I think they kicked 8 goals in the first quarter. 8 goals to Carlton's 2. And they said, this is our hometown. This is our home deck. And we're going to prove that situation. And we're going to absolutely thump you in the first quarter. And they did. And it was just trying to claw back from there on out for Carlton. And
it was crazy to see.
Able to do it.
They were moving the ball so quick. Their forward line was just, it's cool to see a team when they're just in like a flow state. And they were just humming, which is, it's big for Carlton. Carlton fans were rightfully a bit miffed after the game and they copped a lot of feedback. But yeah, it was pretty nuts to see because it was kind of going over there a bit of a test, but like no one saw.
Adelaide's sneaky good. I don't think they're getting the credit they should be. They're sneaky good this year.
And back to being really good at Adelaide Oval. So
it's important. Skinny ground. Got to be able to get long down the line, make the contest, as a big boy says. There was one thing that did happen from it, though. They had the Savani trip. It's a bit of a brain fart. Maybe this is the clanger of the week. I'm not really too sure, but he had a little bit of a situation where I kind of tried to half tackle someone, the guy got loose from the tackle, and he essentially tripped him to the floor. And yeah, that's going to be something. It's going to be a little bit of financials out of his wallet, or it might be a little bit further. I think it'd be just a fine, though.
What I find that didn't help the situation is so Silvani's on the deck. He's got one full leg like wrapped up, right? Pay a trip there, holding the leg. And then he wouldn't have done the rest of the action. Sometimes that gets players in trouble, especially like some of these slings that you see as well. It'll be a player will have a guy tackled and done. And there's a delayed whistle because the umpire just wants it to come out so it can be play on. And then delayed whistle. So then eventually the guy's like, well, I got to keep going with the tackle and then dumps him on the ground. And they're like, nah, dangerous tackle. It's like, well, if you had just blown the whistle 10 seconds earlier, been hanging off this guy for bloody half an hour, when are you going to pay the free kick? He's literally holding onto his leg and he's like trying to reef his leg out. So then Silvani's like, well, I'll just like kick his other leg off and... and away we go. It's like
slide tackles that are like
there wasn't much else that he could do, but just called the trip earlier, and it's we're not even talking about it.
In the same place because he just takes a free kick anyway, where he would have just been stuck. So there's really no difference there.
Yeah.
We'll move on to the Freo versus Suns game Friday night.
Big blockbuster.
This is a blockbuster. I did a little bit of Triple M, but I could just feel it on the radio. They were just like, "Get me the hell out of this joint."
Well, what it was, because there's like sub-stories inside sub-stories with every game. You could have two, bottom dwellers coming together, but there's always something inside it. And I reckon it's just the pressure on both coaches in this one because it's Stewie Jew's been under pressure for a long time.
Since he went up to the Gold Coast, I feel like.
And our boy Longmuir, old Longy, he's feeling the heat this season because, they went forward last year, played finals, got a win in finals. And then they've come out and they've been really struggling. So, I was just looking at both coaches that are like having mini strokes on the sidelines, and you're like, I just want them to both win. I don't know how that's going to work, but it's stressful.
Maybe a tie. Nah, they probably both get flagged for a tie. There's no winning for both of them at the same time. But yeah, Freo came back after being behind for most of the game, and there's one thing I realized being a ruckman: Sean Darcy dominant. Big boy was dominant. Wits is injured at the moment, so they had no other backup really that had the experience that he does, and Sean Darcy took full advantage of that.
And they were saying that he's 110 kilos, which is, I reckon,
he is more. I've played against the man. The man is more than 110 kilos, guaranteed. He's pushing 120, if not more.
Oh, he's thick.
He's a
2
thick
C's.
man.
He's a thick boy. Oh man, but I did not. Apologies, I don't know who the hell that he was playing on. Some young kid with a mullet, and I felt so bad for him. I was just like, Sean Darcy would have got 50 hit outs and
licking his lips all over the day.
He was just ragdolling this poor kid. I just felt so sorry for him. But yeah, big boy Sean Darcy. That's what you're talking about with these rucks, these first rucks. We discussed it last week with first and second rucks, and a lot of people, had their opinion on what you said last week, but that's the difference. You got these like rucks that are 210 centimeters tall going against 190 somethings, and they're 220 kegs against guys that have to run and jump and lead up and stuff that are 100 kilos or whatever. So they're giving away height and weight, and it's
a tough matchup for sure. But there was a positive thing also out of this game. Now, Walters kicked 4. And obviously, a bit of the racism scandal again this week. Unfortunately, I deal with it again in social media side, people saying things that they shouldn't. And it's pretty awesome, though, because Walters, in reaction to that, goes and kicks 4. And we talk about Jamara kicking 5 after he had his kind of thing that happened earlier this year. And it's great, to see Indigenous players, after having such a terrible week and having to deal with that stuff, come out and just light up the big stage.
It's always the best way to quiet the haters. Is just kick a bag. And it is sad that it just seems to be a weekly occurrence at the moment. Obviously, they're all cowards because they're all doing it behind, anonymous accounts with like no names or whatever. So they're just a pack of losers. But it's great to see all these Indigenous players out there just thriving. Like, it's awesome to see.
We'll talk about one of those Indigenous players for the Collingwood Football Club thriving later in this. Old Bobby Hill. Bobby Hill. We love the big Bobby. But we'll move on to the Sydney versus Richmond game. This one was a little wet, but there was a bit of other liquid flowing on the day. And that was Jack Rewalt's head. Jeez Louise. What do you call it? Claret here?
Claret, which I've literally never heard of the term claret outside of footy.
No. And it was spewing out of his head. It was a hell of a photo that was taken.
So you went in and you had internal claret.
He had external. All over it. External everywhere.
But he was, so it was in the marking contest, and I had to go back a couple of times and see what the hell happened. And it was a back elbow that he copped to the head, and it was instant blood, instant cut. Like most of the time, it's you cop a knock, there's a slight delay, then blood starts. It was instant. So he must have hit something. And Jack, after the game, has this massive gash on his head, and it's just stapled up. I don't know how you guys just quick staple me up. I got to get back out there. That's a 10 to 8 weeker from me. I'd be at home on the couch. I'd have a hot water bottle, a blanket. You wouldn't see me outside my house for weeks. I'd be texting mum, bring us around some soup. I'm dying. I'm bloody dying over here. Did you see me? I had blood on my face. He was more blood than skin.
Oh, it was a phenomenal shot that you could see him coming off the ground, and he looked like Frankenstein after the staples put into his head. And I wish him all the best, getting better. Yeah, I assume since he played again, he's all right, so he'll be good for the next week. But
that's what
it's pretty phenomenal. It's just brush it off, whatever, just move back out there.
They go, get me a staple gun and staple my head back together. I need to get back out there. It's nuts. You had a bloody head earlier. This was funny because it was a while back because I gifted, but it was like you went off and they're just giving you nonstop stick on the commentary. It's like, come on, mate. It wasn't that bad. You got to get back out there. And it cuts to a shot of you looking right down the camera on the bench as they're wrapping your head, and you just had blood coming down your face. I was like, yeah, mate, you big sissy.
Suck.
Get out there.
I do. It was up in Brisbane, I think, or something like that.
Yeah,
And I think
it
it
was
happened. And I remember I got hit in the head, and whenever you feel blood and it starts gushing, I tried to stop it, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna need to come off here because I'm not gonna ruck with one hand.
You self-reported on the field.
No, the ruck was like, the umpire was like, are you bleeding? I was like, yeah. And I was like, he's like, all right, you need to go off. So I came off and I was trying to hold like that, and it just it started gushing through my hand and everything else. And I was just like, this is gonna be impossible to really keep into and not be able to get this everywhere. And then I got to the boundary, and I remember you could feel it, just it gushed all over your face, and you're kind of just sitting there. And I remember on the commentators, you can't tell the umpire you're bleeding, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, if I didn't have my hand there trying to cover up this huge wound and gash on my head, then it would just be spraying all over my face. So I think it'd be pretty obvious.
It's easily the smartest thing to do in that situation, because it's like, you're bleeding. If you got to draw attention to it so you can get another ruck or someone to fill that position and stuff. So it's
smart play. Smart play.
It was so funny though, because it was just hilarious how they married it up at the time, because they're like, this big sissy's going off the ground. And you wouldn't have been able to see the camera because it was that far away, but you're looking dead down the barrel and blood's pouring down your face.
I'd heard him personally. Well, also in that game, Tom Papley, this man freaks.
We talk about
6'6", has 25 touches.
We talk about Jez getting similar numbers, but Jez is 6'6", and so it's one thing for him to do it because he's like this tall, athletic, god. But Tommy Papley's not an inch over 5 foot, is he? He's just a little fella, and he's getting out there he was taking overhead marks, and he's 5 foot. He's kick 6.
He just sits
25
out the back,
touches,
pushes people under, and just says, "I'll take the goal square to myself."
There's not a better celebrator in the game.
Energy that comes. Adelaide's got a decent celebrator on their team too. Don't get me wrong, but Paps is up there. Paps is up there with the celebration. We absolutely love it. And I remember once, actually, talking about Tom Papley, it was, you remember House Party? Whenever COVID happened, everyone got on that little app House Party. Somehow Tom Papley and myself were on the same House Party app. It was wild. I was just sitting there, and I think there's 2 or 3 other Sydney boys. I was like, this is a bit weird. And I was like, we're all bored shitless because we couldn't literally do anything. We couldn't leave our house. And our House Party got popular, and I ended up on the same House Party as Tom Paps.
I think House Party gives me
anxiety.
Like shell shock or something. I get traumatized just hearing about it and thinking about it. Rochelle.
I pushed that so far out of my head.
Rochelle is the guy. Rochelle does the little shadow boxing. He did it again. He pulls it out every week.
I think the Adelaide crowd loves it, including myself.
I don't mind it.
We'll move on to the next game. We got Brisbane versus North. Brisbane dismantled North. We said North might have been flag favorites at the beginning of this year. I think we're maybe taking that comment back.
Yeah, well, I feel bad for the people of Mount Barker cruising out to that game. They got the duck frequency going, and
Can you imagine the sound of that? Oh, the crowd's just roaring. It's like, no, it's actually the duck frequency. We just turned it up. Needed to get them a few dissipated from the ground.
Well, it kept North away, but they were no good after halftime. To their credit, they were pretty competitive for the first half.
Yeah,
and then it just went real south real quick, and they just piled it on. Danaher kicked a bag. Hipwood 4. Cameron 4. Your old mate, Steve-O.
Oh, Steve-O.
He kicked 4. So
any barrels from outside 50 or?
No bazzes.
No? Okay.
No I reckon he was listening to last week's podcast. Doesn't want to cop another spray. Did you check out any of that game, or maybe that's the one that you skipped for the rest?
Just missed it. I don't think the streaming from Mount Barker was too great on the weekend. But no, in all honesty, it was cool to see the game out there. And like you said, it was kind of a makeshift oval that just came out of nowhere. It was kind of like a music festival in the middle of a farmland. And then all of a sudden, a week later, it's back to farming. I think that's what Mount Barker's going to be. Who's playing next?
Port v Bulldogs. And one thing, because they have the Adelaide Oval experience where you get to go sit on the roof, and it was pissing down rain. And they just cut to the shot of 10 people sitting up on the roof, just getting drenched, just getting hammered. I'd be checking the bomb app and being like, if some thunderstorm's coming this way, I'm getting the fuck off this roof, because they were right out in the elements. That's good ticket. If you won free tickets to that,
stuck to.
I would not. If someone said, "Hey, free tickets to sit in the piss and rain on top of a roof," shove them up your ass. I don't fucking want those. But yeah, so I don't know if they had to pay for those, because that would be even worse. But one bloke that just keeps saving Port's ass, Alir.
So good. He's named twice.
And he touched another one on the line.
Oh.
Memo. That's me ripping it off the fact. block him on the freaking line, wouldn't you?
Block the guy that can jump higher than anyone else probably on the ground.
Let's not learn lessons. Don't you love that?
Man. He had a chase down on Naughton late in the game, and it was just a desperate act real late in the game that helped them get it over the line.
But that's not the only head scratcher. Jason Horne-Francis gets the ball and gets booed at Adelaide Oval, and it's a real head scratcher because it's like, well, who's booing him? North fans aren't there. They're out of bloody Barker over licking their wounds. So who's sticking around just to boo this 19-year-old kid? It didn't make any sense.
It blows my mind that, yes, the situation of like Port fans should be the majority of fans there.
You'd think.
And it's a 19-year-old kid and he's playing for you. You probably want him to play better for the rest of the game. Therefore, you probably shouldn't boo him. And it's just, that's just any player, really. And then you get into the whole thing, the fact that he's 19 years old, which is just ridiculous in itself. I will say this about it, though. Ken Hinkley, props to him. After the game, embracing him, saying, look, you can have a bit of a struggle patch, but the fact that you finished the game and were able to help us get across the line, it is a credit to you as a 19-year-old for the maturity you were able to show on the day. And credit to Ken Hinkley. And he said it after the game. He had made some comments around the treatment of Jason Horne-Francis. And I think there's nothing better whenever you have the respect and love of a coach that's willing to back you in and show love and wrap his arms around you whenever you might be in a situation that you don't deserve.
And they were super concise, strong words by the coach post-game. And it was really good to see. And it was nothing but truth bombs because it was like, you're like whether you're a journalist writing articles about it, you're on TV like talking shit, or you're a fan, you're booing him, or you're giving him shit through social media, look at yourself in the mirror because you're teeing off on a 19-year-old that chose to go home to his family. Like, it was great by Ken Hinkley to defend his man, but it's like words that shouldn't have to be said.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm glad he did say them. But, it's, what do you say? Like, there's just idiots everywhere.
There's dumbasses all over this world.
Because even really Ken Hinkley was like, he's not a 28-year-old. It's like, well, John, let's just not abuse anyone.
Yeah. I mean, like a 28-year-old would have more experience, I guess, in that situation. But like for an 18, 19-year-old kid who's like obviously young in his career and is going to be a gun, to get the criticism from from a crowd that's like his home crowd, like just baffles me.
But it reminds me of a few different instances. Like, I reckon Jack Watts came in like a highly touted number 1 draft pick and was just up against it from day dot, and he never got a chance to flourish as like a player because you just have so much like of a burden on your shoulders that you like got to live up to your draft pick, you got to live up to your hype. People, as soon as you're not like this, the next Chris Judd, Nathan Buckley, like Nick Dacos coming through at number 1 or top.
Jamar copped this criticism. Yeah. Nick probably would have been number 1 draft pick, I would think. Yeah. Out of that draft, obviously the father-son pulled him away from it. And he's having a stellar year, don't get me wrong. But it seems like anyone that's drafted in the top 5, if you're not an absolute gun by like round 3, just getting the most disposals on ground, then everyone hates you.
Yeah, it's crazy. But the sad thing is, like with a lot of those guys, it just carries through their whole career. Like that expectation never dies off or goes away. So yeah,
Jamar was being compared to Buddy. Before he played a game. Like, give the kid a break. Jeez Louise.
And that's part of the reason why it took him so long to break into the senior side, because they knew as soon as they put him out there and all this pressure, if he didn't perform straight away, he was going to cop all this flack. So they have to look after him. Whereas like other players that, get drafted in the 30s or whatever, they go like, oh, great, you're ready to rock, get out there. If you have a bad game, like we'll just make you play in the VFL until you get better. Like it's just different for these guys. And your teammate, Jack Ginnivan, going through the same stuff, getting booed up in Sydney when he's like sitting on the bench injured. And it's just, like these kids, they get out there and they show some personality.
The issue I had with that was they went back to him on the bench after he got booed the first time. There was no need.
Issue.
Yeah, there was no need to go back to him after knowing that was a situation and knowing it would probably happen again for a person who had been outside and said he had mental health issues to sit there and go a second time to really just dig the dagger in. That was the major issue I had with that. Like, it's fine to sit there and put him on broadcast if he's injured, and obviously it's a story, but to go back to him to try to get people essentially to boo him again. You need to know better than that. And that was my big issue with that. But the treatment of Ginnivan over, that year and stuff is something that's been well and truly documented. And maybe it's a learning experience for a lot of people in the media and a learning experience for people on social media to understand that it's not okay to do that.
And it's still following him around today, but it would be hard pressed to find someone that doesn't struggle mentally at some stage, copying so much abuse, so many DMs, text messages, people in the street, just abusing them. It's nuts. So I don't know. It needs to stop, but obviously we live in a pretty, weird
connected world where you somehow have access to everyone.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts. But
we'll move on to the next game. We got Geelong and West Coast. Geelong, cool. First 2 goals went to West Coast. Geelong came back, thumped them.
Thought they had him there for a second.
I don't know. Oh, we said it last week. Geelong would have a little bit of momentum coming out of that game, and they smashed West Coast, and they now have even more momentum. But there was one thing that happened in this game that's a big story out of it, and that is Tyson Stengel has broken his wrist, I want to say, and he's going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks, which is a big loss for them.
Which sucks because, they were all having a great day up forward, and he could have filled his pockets. But, it's sad to see he got crunched in a tackle, and he was actually struggling before that. So he had a bit of a day. He went through it a bit. But one other thing, we got to touch on this. We just got to skim it because we talk about this bloke every week. And we get it. You're freaking good, man. Jez Cameron, 4 goals. He just kicked 3 in about 30 seconds. And then it was mate, let others have a go. Let him have a go. He's going to win the Coleman and the Brownlow.
Insane. He's a freak.
If there was a week we didn't talk about him, it should have been this week. 4 goals is poor by his standards. 4 goals? He kicked 6 and he kicked 7. 4 is nothing. That's not even a bag nowadays.
Oh, gosh. He's an absolute freak. We don't have to touch on him much. Look, Jezza, you keep doing your thing, all right? We love it here at the podcast. Just don't do it against us in Collingwood, all right?
Jezza watch.
Jezza watch.
Put him on Jezza watch.
Anyway, next one, we got GWS in Hawthorn. Now, this might actually be game of the round.
Which is crazy.
Crazy to think. 2 teams on the bottom of the ladder, this is strife, but haven't had the greatest start to their season, don't get me wrong. And it's a 2-point win for GWS and old Himmelberg. He is the savior, the Lord and Savior of GWS. Old Himmelberg. He takes essentially mark of the year, goes back, slots the goal.
The game-winning goal.
Game-winning goal. And you go, maybe, he's saved us. He's amazing. He's our, the perfect human to do it. He's taking this spectacular spec. He kicks the goal. What do you know? Hawthorn goes, you know what? We've got a chance here. And they try to kick one from 50. And who is it? Himmelberg again. He goes, I'll go into the forward 50 and then I'll go back into the deep 50 and I'll save the game after winning the game. And he takes a little punch, essentially just acts like he's going to mark the ball, touches it, just the tip of his fingers.
Full stretch,
arched back, huge play, touches the ball, goes over the line, and essentially saves them from losing that game.
You got to look at some of these because he's kind of in the same mold as Jez Cameron. He's a phenomenal footballer, and they wish they had 2 of him because he's really good back, he's really good forward. Same as Jez, good field kick, super athletic. Yeah, so as players playing against a guy like that, you're probably how's a big guy so mobile and can do it all? Being Himmers, surely you're looking around going, can someone do something? I'm doing it all. Probably didn't have to take the screamer, didn't have to kick the match winner, didn't have to save it on the final line with the touch of... Give us a chop out, fellas. But I've been watching a fair bit of GWS this year, and their ladder position doesn't reflect the effort they're putting in. They have ever since the start of the season, they had that really hot game, and then they got a whole bunch of injuries and cramping and stuff.
Yeah.
So that game really put them on the back foot for the next game where they were playing really well, and then died out in the late stages. Then they got more injuries, and their effort has been phenomenal. And then it's just they keep running out of people on the park every week because they're just so cooked. But yeah, so it's good to see them get a win. Hawks, I feel everyone knows that they're going to go through it this year. They're going to develop, but they're putting in some great efforts too. So
they're not laying down. not laying down. And there is one injury, unfortunately, out of the Hawks. Chad Wingard got a lacerated tongue. Now, I've never heard of this before, a lacerated tongue. So essentially, he's split open his tongue. I don't even know how you do that, to be honest.
Which I look at that and I go, geez, that's a real Mason Cox injury.
That is a Mason Cox injury.
You're taking notes. You can lacerate your tongue.
Lacerate your tongue. Who would have thought? Oh, I can imagine though, like lacerating your tongue, right? You're gonna have to probably sew that thing up or something. It is gonna be smoothies for weeks for that man. Oh, that's gonna be rough.
I wonder how that happens. If it's a whole because it was like during a tackle or something. But it was pretty innocuous.
Well, people were saying he might not have been wearing a mouth guard, I think.
That's my thoughts. Are the only kind of way you can't really chew through your tongue if you got a mouth guard in, surely. But
maybe through the bottom. You should only wear a mouth guard on top.
Interesting
one. A Mason
sucks
Cox
for Chad.
injury. Sucks for Chad. We're not a fan of injuries. Now, before we get into this, because the Collingwood versus St. Kilda game we will cover here in a second, but I want to talk about another injury that's happened. And it's happened to an absolute legend of the sport. A guy that's probably played more games than anyone I ever thought could possibly play. That man, Boomer Harvey.
Yeah, Boomer being the key word.
Boomer.
Dude's
Harvey.
about 60.
Dude's about 60. Probably still getting 50 touches a game.
Yeah, he's out there playing for North Heidelberg, I'm going to say. But he's been playing with them for a while. And unfortunately, we don't want to see it, but he broke his leg.
Gruesome.
Pretty bad. The images of him holding this Tetris piece of a leg, it's got this real kink in the middle. Not great. But you're like, all right, let's call an ambulance. Get the old fella to the hospital.
Yeah.
50 minutes he had to wait.
That is gruesome. And I don't know if they have a green whistle at local footy because you'd be sucking on that thing dry.
A deep throat that whistle right down there. My legs snapped in 30 places. Where's the ambulance? It's like the ambulance Vic came out and said, because it's not a life-threatening situation, they were just cruising. No lights, just cruising out. Probably stopped at every red light, at the bakery, pick up a scone.
A scone.
Well, poor Boomer Harvey's there holding his shrapnel leg. It's pretty life-threatening, mate, as well. Like,
do you stop play for 50 minutes?
50 minutes. Well, they just kind of dragged his
gosh, that was
his
so
body
painful.
to the sidelines.
It looked terrible.
Just touching
anything broken leg is just not
just broken
good.
Anything, just touching it and moving it, and your bones grinding on bones, and
maybe actually this is our other clanger of the week. Ambulance Victoria, sort your shit out.
Get there. Maybe you got lights. Maybe just use the lights.
Just use them. There's like zero cop cars in this country. Like, just use them for ambulances whenever you need actually to save someone's leg that's snapped in half.
And maybe, Boomer, you probably earned a week off. You've been playing 40, 50 years. Have a week off. Have a couple weeks. Have
Hopefully
a bit of a rest.
Cashies if he's injured. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, roll down there.
There you go. We'll move on to the last couple bits now. Collingwood Football Club plays St. Kilda, and it was a tough game. It was the number one team, St. Kilda. They've been on an absolute steamroll for the last few weeks since round one. They hadn't lost a game. They come up against the Mighty Magpies, and they almost came back, but luckily enough for Collingwood fans, almost is not good enough.
It looked dead and buried. Everyone was packing up their stuff. I could hear the broadcasters like going to the car, and they kicked a goal with like a few minutes left, and no celebration.
Jack was just deadpan, didn't care.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, get me out of here. Get me out of Adelaide. Don't need to gather anymore.
Then they kicked one, kicked another one. And it was like a minute 10 left and they needed 2. And it was like, even that's pretty steep ask. And then they kicked another one with in 15 seconds or something.
And there was like 50 seconds left. And I was like, this is a 6-point game. After we thought, we never think it's already done, that it's not until the father siren. But I think a lot of people would probably pack their stuff up and left the stadium thinking that game was done. And St. Kilda came back and said, nope, still a chance. And they won the clearance and essentially got into forward 50. So it was a chance of being able to tie that game.
They almost Collingwooded you.
Oh, we had a strong fourth quarter like we always do. And they almost came back in the last dying minutes to try to even it up.
And yes, as always, Darcy Moore back there, steadied the ship. But it was an exciting game. Let's get into it. And it was exciting from the very start with the two teams running through the joint banner, 30 years on from Nicky Winmar's iconic
Yeah.
jumper up, pointing to his stomach. It was amazing.
That's still so symbolic even today. You talked about Jamar earlier in the pod and him doing that again whenever he was playing recently and kicked a bag. And it was awesome to see both teams come out with a statement earlier to say they apologized. And then also for them to run through the banner together was a huge symbolic moment, I think, for the IFL and showing support to the Indigenous communities and everything that's happening as of recent and everything that's happened in the past. Like, there's so much to learn, I think, in this part of the world and part of society. And I think these are steps that we need to take to be able to help educate people. And credit to Nicky, because he came to the game, did the toss. Indigenous players came into the toss. Bobby Hill was in there with Ash Johnson, and it was a beautiful moment. Like, I think for the IFL to do that, for Nicky to be a part of it, it's a sign that we're headed in the right direction. Are we there yet? No, there's still a lot to learn, but I think we're taking steps to a better future.
Absolutely. And Bobby Hill, wasn't he fantastic?
Oh, Jesus.
3 goals. He was kicking them from everywhere, setting them up from everywhere. And he looked bloody good in his long sleeve jumper.
Long sleeve jumpers. Hey, those boys in the long sleeves today won the game, I reckon. No, and checkers. Don't get me wrong. But I need to start wearing a long sleeve. Maybe I get a bit of speed if you wear a long sleeve jumper. What do you think? Is it maybe like, the AFL 23 or whatever the game is? Maybe they can add a few stats on there from wearing a long sleeve jumper.
Stick your pecs out a bit. The boy's looking good with it.
He looks strong. He looks strong in a long sleeve jumper.
It was tight. Very tight jumper. But
the ladies loved it.
3 amigos up there. So Bobby, Jamie, and Guinea. All wearing the long sleeve. Little, I don't know what you'd call them. Mosquito fleet.
They're Beetlejuice. It just looks like Beetlejuice, I feel like. Our jumper, whenever you get the long sleeves and the hoops kind of going all the way down the arm in black and white, it just looks like, I can't get over it. It's Beetlejuice to me.
So let's jump into the game a bit deeper. Who do you have left? There's no one out there. There's no talls. There's no one over 6 foot. So what do we get? We got McStay got injured. They were like looking at his hand. He just didn't look right. Yeah. And then obviously late in the game, we got Murph off with concussion protocol. Like, you're running out of talls. So I don't know who plays back. If Frampton goes back, who plays ruck? If someone comes out of the forward line, who fills McStay? Who you got?
Well, I think we had Will Hoskin-Elliott playing the forward line, and at the end of the game, someone goes, "Oh, it was great, the talls, Will Hoskin-Elliott." And I was like, if we got Will Hoskin-Elliott as one of the tallest guys on the ground, we are struggling for big men.
He's skinny. He looks skinny.
He can get up there. Don't get me wrong. He goes well for how big he is, but he's not considered a tall probably in my book.
Who's the tallest bloke out there now? Darcy Moore.
Darcy Moore and Billy Frampton be top 2.
And you're not taking Darcy out of the back.
You're not. Hey, you don't take.
And you're not putting him anywhere near the
Ferraris in the mud. Don't drive your Ferraris in the mud. All right.
Jeez.
There's going to be a bit of swapping around this week again with a few injuries, and hopefully Dan's all right. Hopefully he can play next week. I'm not really too sure kind of what happened with him there, hand injury, I'm sure, but the concussion protocol might be that Murph is out for Anzac Day, so we'll have
which is massive because he was
huge. Everywhere. Good. Look, Nathan Murphy, underrated. I think we can all easily say that and agree. Nathan Murphy, one of the most underrated players in the league right now.
Well, I would say that his improvement has been astronomical, which is part of the reason why he'd go underrated. But this season, he's
dominating one-on-ones. He's just handball receives to Nick Day costs about 20 of those today. Love that.
And his commitment to just go and affect. Like,
goes back on flight every single chance he gets.
Yeah, he always comes off his man as quick as possible to try and get to someone else, and he was phenomenal. So it's a massive out. I guess we were talking about it's kind of lucky that Essendon's forward line's not overly tall because there might be an issue down back with height. Krugs is playing in the VFL.
Yeah, he is. So Krugs, I know he came back this week and he played. I'm not sure how he went yet, but
kicked the snag I saw.
Yeah. Krugs, he's a good man, Krugs, and he's come back from the shoulder injury, and he's an option if he's still healthy and got through the game today.
Should have put a longer arm back on his body and get him out in defence, get that spoil action going. What are you kicking goals up for? We need you down back.
He can play multiple places, I'll tell you. Nathan Kruger will play wherever the hell you put him.
Now, Jack Ginnivan.
Yes, Guinea.
Now, Guinea was back, and he warmed into the game, I reckon. He, he looked like a guy that probably missed a bit of footy early, which is expected, but, came back and kicked that goal, and what a celebration, and all the boys got around him. Good to have him back in the team.
Yeah, it was good. He was those small, like I said, the small forwards really showed a lot this week, and it was good to see Guinea back there having a smile on his face, kicking snags and almost ripping his jumper off. Jeez, boys, that was good. But he also had a funny moment where he was like laying on the ground. I think it was a ball up, and he's looking at one of the St. Kilda players for a little bit of help to get out. The St. Kilda players gives him donuts, absolute donuts.
Chivalry is
dead. It was
dead.
so funny, and I was just like, that is just trolling 101 for Guinea. Love it.
It was good. He really looked like he was expecting him to pick him up.
Just sat there for like 5 seconds on the ground. It was coming like myself and Scott Lai said, wasn't it? Like a couple of weeks ago? Just waiting for someone to get the ball. Real standoff there. But no, it was good to see Guinea back. Good to see him going well. And hoping all the best for him in the future. And we might have him playing as one of our key forwards at some point. Who knows?
So this was another thing that jumped out as weird, and it goes into my Ross Lyon conspiracy file.
Gosh, you love this.
So one, Ross had a Gatorade bottle in front of him in the box, so he got it through customs or one of his security at the airport. But for such a tight game, you go down by a kick, cut to the box, you expect to see the coach just red with rage, or he's just having a laugh, kicking around, slapping backs, just chilling. Ross Lyon.
Golly, it just kind of, it makes me, I love it because Ross Lyon's a pretty laid back dude, so it's on character.
Well, he is now, but he never was.
He never was, but I think he's taking this as just like a second opportunity in life to just see if he could coach a totally different way and if it works. And it is working. It is working. It's a crazy thing. But yeah, he was just kicking back laughing. It just kind of made me think back to like, it was like 2 or 3 years ago or something where one of the players, was smiling after they had lost. I think it was a Melbourne player maybe. And the media just threw a fit about it, an absolute fit about it. And it was like, these guys have probably played juniors together or something, like, come on, get over it. Like, the siren's gone. We're not punching each other anymore. Like, we're all kind of friends again. Like, we can all have a laugh or have a bit of a joke, whatever it might be, if that comes about. But yeah, Ross Lyon was just having a bit of a laugh whenever his team, they almost came back and won. I think he's almost in disbelief at how many goals they kicked in the last quarter. And he was probably going, shit, why don't we play like that the whole game?
It comes around once every year or every other year where they tee off on players for like smiling or laughing or chatting with someone, which you normally go into the rooms. And if you go into the rooms are flat as a tack after a loss. It's a lot different to having a chat because you see a friend out on the field. But yeah, I don't know. It was a weird vibe by Ross, but I love it. Like, I love this this resurgence, this little Ross Lyon comeback. It's a glow up. It's a
glow up.
But yeah, I was keeping an eye on your Gatorade bottle there, Rossi. Don't think I haven't been seeing it. I'm on to you, buddy. So St. Kilda, I guess in a way, proves that they're legit. In my eyes, they had question marks around them because they were undefeated, but it's like, against who? Coming up against Collingwood, neutral ground. Yep. And it was tight, one kick in it. I think everyone can fairly say that they're definitely in the hunt and legit. And another team that has kind of crossed over into that is Essendon after coming out and just flogging Melbourne.
Wild.
Who everyone says is like right up there as a contender for the premiership. Essendon just smashed them. And so it's going to be a massive game. Anzac Day, always big regardless. Yeah. Both teams always get up regardless. But both teams are flying at the moment. And it's going to be such a good game.
It's going to be insane. Like, it's always great whenever you got the big clubs, big supporter base, big games playing between them. And I think that's what everyone wants. Like, obviously Anzac Day, every single year, sell out. But then whenever teams are both really good, the energy goes to another level because there's so much more on the line.
Well, the wins and loss actually matter.
Yeah.
Like it's different because most people look at the fixture and if you see you got Carlton twice or Essendon twice, if you win both of those games and like lose all the rest, you're like, well, at least we got it over them.
Oh, I couldn't tell you whenever we're having the rough years, people go, as long as you beat Carlton, that's all that matters.
Exactly. And this is, it's going to be so crazy because it's been such a long time. Both teams are up the top end of the ladder together. And it's, normally it's one team trying to ruin it for the other team. Yep. But this time it's like both teams really want the win. It's going to really like count in terms of how the season pans out. So I cannot wait for this. Unfortunately, you'll be sitting in the stands, I guess. What are you going to be doing for it?
I'll get a doctor's appointment on Thursday and then a bit of a scan on Monday, but I don't think
late call-up.
Yeah. Hey, if that scan goes real well, there's a little bit of a rumor I might be able to play.
They'll be like, oh, you've grown an extra spleen.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't believe it. It is going to be interesting, though, because Sam Draper and Andrew Phillips, two ruckmen playing together.
Two bloody good ruckmen.
Collingwood Football Club, straight out of ruckman. Billy Frampton's doing well in there, don't get me wrong, but don't really have too many true ruckmen just rolling around the club at the moment. And yeah, it's going to be interesting. Obviously, them two playing together being quite tall. And then Nathan Murphy probably coming out with the concussion protocol. It's going to be, we're going to have to really try to make up for the fact that they've got the height on their side coming up this week.
I reckon just get in their heads, play a small in there, extra midfielder, don't contest any ruck, just be there ready to just crunch blokes and win taps. And hopefully, Gordo Day Huey comes back straight in after his illness. Big Jordan run around the park. Probably helps you.
Missed him a bit this week.
Yeah, well, he's
just a ball in the middle.
He's been playing some bloody good football. What happened with that? He had an illness.
Yeah, illness. These things happen, like especially whenever you're traveling, and we don't fly private jets, unfortunately, Braden. So we are around the public, and things can get spread in the public. There's a capsule you're flying over, and who knows what has what. So
you're blaming public flights?
Yeah, I mean, if the AFL wants to start playing for private jets again, like we were in COVID, I'm happy to go about that. And I can guarantee you that will never happen with their stingy ass.
So he wasn't out at the wineries testing some of this Shiraz that I didn't stop hearing about all bloody weekend. It sounds like Adelaide has nothing except for wineries.
Yeah.
That's the promo that I got from everyone.
That's the economy of Adelaide.
You say, hey, what can I do in Adelaide? It's like, you like wine? You better say yes, otherwise don't go to Adelaide.
The City of Churches, a place that it's called the City of Churches, yet no one in this country goes to church.
Yeah, everyone just goes to get pissed by the sounds of it. But anyway, I digress.
Plenty of liquid for the blood of Christ.
But I'm looking forward to this. Did you ever go to the Anzac, the dawn service?
Yeah. I went my first year. I've been to, I think, the 125th anniversary. I was there at that one too, which was pretty cool. Or maybe was it 125th or 100th? No, 100th anniversary.
Yeah.
That was really cool. And I've done a few.
125th.
Yeah, that's what it was. But 100th anniversary, went to that Anzac one, which was pretty cool. I don't know, I went there at the actual memorial, and the dawn service, there was 100,000 plus people there. It was phenomenal. A real kind of moving experience. I don't know. And that many people getting up that early to show respect in that way was really cool. Now the game obviously is not the main thing on the day. We all, obviously the big event is actually honoring the Anzacs that have given their life or been in the situation where they might have, gone to war, or whatever it might be, or been enlisted. And the game is just something that's cool that we can bring attention to the day and how important it is. And one thing that's also pretty cool is the Anzac Eve match, even that kind of preps into that, where they have the nighttime and the fire and the black MCG that's all the lights off. It's so cool, man. It makes me think, we've been saying this on the pod, when are we moving a grand final to the night game? The entertainment is so much better at night.
You don't get it, Mace.
I know.
You don't get it.
I'm trying to sit here and be a futuristic person. Get rid of the center bounce. Umpires can't do it. All right? Do the grand final at night. Entertainment value through the roof.
Okay. So this is the main argument of normal people, right?
Normal people, yeah.
Not futuristic people. We've known it forever. It's embedded in our soul, the daytime grand final. And you know what the entertainment is? The freaking grand final, Mace. It's not fucking Delta Goodrum coming and playing a song. It's not, dusting off Jet to come out and play their 5 hits that they made 20 years ago. You're not going to get, Drake coming out to play the night grand final because he doesn't give a shit about footy. The grand final is the entertainment, and it's best played during the day, and then you can go and get hammered drunk at night.
No. I know the real reason, Braden, and you might not want to admit it, but you just want an excuse to start drinking beers at 10 a.m.
100%.
That's the only reason you want to keep the midday game.
When they had the night game during the lockdown, I still kept drinking beers at 10 a.m., but it's when are they going to start this thing? Because I look at the time on my watch and realize that I don't have a watch, and that's how drunk I am.
You're so drunk, you couldn't read it. Didn't realize you hadn't put it on there.
Start this bloody thing, and I think I remember the first quarter or whatever. Dusty had a million touches and it was over. I was like, well.
That was fun watching.
Yeah.
Great viewing.
I asked my mates what happened for the rest tomorrow.
Well, it's going to be a big week next week. It's going to be a massive, massive week in the footy world. And credit to the IFL in the gather round. What a success it was. I had some real question marks whenever I heard the initial idea, but Adelaide has showed up and showed out. They've quote unquote sold out the week of games, and it's a credit to them. They did it so well. The IFL is willing to do it for another 3 years there, and then they're going to move it somewhere else. So it's pretty amazing. Well done, Adelaide. Credit to you. Shout out for the week going to the Adelaide or South Australia. We won't just call it Adelaide because we got to shout out Mount Barker up there.
I know what your questions about the weekend were. Where's mine?
Yeah.
Where's the bit of my
Where's our cash? I know the AFL definitely got some cash from South Australia. There's no doubt about that.
You played one less practice game.
Yeah, but then they're adding another game onto the season.
Yeah, so it cancels
It'd be
out.
a real question mark as far as whether or not we keep an extra game in next year or we essentially take one game out and add in the
They cancel
gather round
out.
as
You
one.
take out one preseason game, you put in the gather round, bada bing, bada boom, mate. It's done. It's all even.
We're still playing 2 preseason games. We're just not having to televise every single one, Braden.
That doesn't count. It's not on TV. It didn't happen.
Oh, jeez. I'm telling you right now, it definitely did happen. But that's it for the podcast, legends. That's the sporting segment. Everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for following along whenever we're doing the live watch of the game.
8,000 followers. Let's
Huge
go.
win on Instagram, 8,000 followers.
Well, that's just on Instagram.
Big
Because our
thank you.
TikTok, we're big on TikTok.
Massive on TikTok because the
we-
kids love it.
Oh, we
I
got,
did an Oz Kick clinic the other day. Lots of kids coming up to me saying they love the TikToks.
which concerned the shit out of me.
Yep, it's concerned the hell out of me too. I was real worried about that. I was like, Braden, you have to start beeping out some words. These kids are like 10 years old.
I hope they don't get served up what we're, over 18. They should get served that. But
Yeah. What was the first headline? Lloyd denied by loose flaps. Yes. That's
everyone out there, get your flap check done.
everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. Absolutely. I want to say a massive thank you for being a part of the community. Absolute legends. Your support, your sharing and everything else with friends and family and everything else means the world to us. So a massive, massive thank you. Keep doing it. We're doing some incredible things this month coming up. Some amazing interviews that will come out.
We have a big one tomorrow that'll release the day after this.
Big interview coming out. This man is an absolute legend.
You could say it'll be a big hit.
Oh, that's a little sneak preview. It's an NHL superstar. He's got a statue outside of Crypto Arena. Yes, where the LA Lakers play and also where the LA Kings play, where this man played for a long time. He's an absolute legend. He's got some great stories from the Olympics to being a professional athlete to playing for the same team for 18 straight seasons.
1,000 games.
Oh, that is a lot in NHL standards. We talk about fights. We talk about hits. We talk about all the big sticks that happens.
Pendles could hit 1,000.
Yeah, but Dustin Brown is who we're getting on the podcast, not Pendles. Pendles maybe next week, but Dustin Brown's going to be a massive, massive kid, so you have to tune in, subscribe, make sure you do not miss that one. It is a great chat. So without further ado, we'll wrap this up. Thank you, everyone, for listening to the Sports Podcast, and once again, check out the Dustin Brown episode coming out next week. After this one, it's going to be great. Enjoy the week that is, and we will speak to you soon.
Prayers up to Boomer.